47 Meters Down Uncaged is a horror show, but for the wrong reason. 47 Meters Down Uncaged is a sequel to 47 Meters Down starring Mandy Moore. However, none of the actors appear in this sequel. It's all new actors, relatively unknown actors. We have Jamie Foxx's daughter, Corinne Fox, in her first lead role, and we have Sistine Rose Stallone, who, as the name gives it away, is the daughter of Sylvester Stallone. So they make their acting debut as leads in this movie. But, well, let me flash back. The movie was released 2 years ago, 47 Meters Down, starring Mandy Moore, and it was actually a really good movie. It caused a lot of anxiety because you have these two women trapped in a shark cage at the bottom of the ocean, and there are great whites circling them, and there's no help for them. And they're running out of oxygen, so they have to preserve talking and screaming and reacting because they'll use up all the oxygen. So that created some very harrowing moments for both, obviously, the actors and for us as viewers. So I thought it was really, really good. There was some on-the-nose dialogue, which kind of threw you out of the moment, but then you were right back to feeling the danger that these women were feeling. So now comes the sequel. I had my fingers crossed, but you know, it's hard to make a sequel, a good sequel, and starring pretty much no one. We do have Nia Long and John Corbett in small roles, and they were a waste of talent. I don't know why they were in this movie. This movie was not good, although I will say the reaction went across gender lines. I asked the women and the men, my fellow press members, and it pretty much was unanimous among the men that they liked it, and among the women we thought it was really, really bad. My husband actually thought it was okay, but he agreed with me that the acting was just terrible. And you know, you have these newbies. You have one girl who's been starring in other movies, but to be fair, once I interviewed the girls, the actors, it made sense as to why the movie was so bad, and I'll explain it a little later. 14 girls going to an American high school in Yucatan, Mexico, all American, decide to take an adventure on the weekend because Dad, who's played by John Corbett, is busy, and he's an anthropologist who is discovering these caves underwater, a lost city. So the girls decide that they're gonna go visit these underwater cities alone. So when they go in these caves, of course, they discover there's something else living there. So we're supposed to believe that there are cave-dwelling great whites. So we're talking like 20-footer sharks in caves. So right there and then, I was thinking to myself, there is no freaking way. After the movie, I went to the internet and looked up cave-dwelling sharks. They don't even exist. Not even a myth. Nothing. So I have no idea how these writers came up with this idea, but it was just ridiculous from the start. The movie is directed by the same director from the first movie, Johan Roberts. So I was shocked afterwards when I went to go see who the hell directed this movie, and it was the same guy. How can the same guy make a movie so much worse than his original? I don't understand. The original film, the whole premise that was causing a lot of tension was that these two women had to withhold their emotions because the more they screamed, the more they talked, the more they were panting, it would use up their oxygen. But in this one, they are screaming their head off, they are talking to each other, so the oxygen would have run out in 5 minutes the way they were carrying on. So it was ridiculous that they were screaming. And in the first one, the anxiety was caused by the fact that you're underwater, these two women are scuba diving, they're surrounded by sharks, And you would expect the same in this movie, but the anxiety here was because they were screaming. I cannot stress how much they're screaming. And it was a little annoying because I can't handle screaming. It causes, well, yes, it causes tension, but for the wrong reason. I just wanted it to be over, or I wanted the shark to kill him and eat him and be done with it. The acting is terrible, but I'm going to place the blame on the director. As I mentioned, the two actresses who are daughters to famous actors, one, they had to go underwater, put on a scuba gear, and also act underwater, but a lot of their dialogue was not used underwater. So they had to go into ADR session and record and dub pretty much all their dialogue. So when you're a newcomer, I mean, I'm not an actor, but it just makes sense that an actor needs the feedback from other actors in order to emote emotions. So when you take them out of the water and you put them in a recording booth, I mean, that changes the whole dynamic. So when you have newcomers who are new to acting, how do you, I mean, unless you have really good actors, but you have to put a lot of effort into it and direct them pretty much. And so I don't want to put too much blame on the actors. I thought they're pretty brave to go in the water in scuba gear, because I did it once and freaked me out because of the pressure in your head. So you can imagine trying to remember your lines with this constant pressure in your head, which they talk about during the interview. So I purely put it on the director, because also you need direction in the recording booth. And if you're just not acting it out, it's just not going to work. And another thing that really irritated me was the fact that this takes place in Mexico, yet there was no Mexican in sight, or anybody who at least pretended to be a Mexican. You have one guy who's, I think, Brazilian, and he might pass as Latino, but everyone had American accents. So this takes place in Mexico, and everybody is American. And the two assistants to John Corbett's character, who's an anthropologist, they too were American. So that was a little annoying, the fact that we're always complaining about diversity in the movies. And yet, you know, you have one of the actors is Asian, and Corinne Fox, who's Jamie Foxx's daughter. So in that aspect you do, but the fact that you're shooting, the setting is Mexico and you have no Latinos in the movie just really, really bothers me. 47 Meters Down Uncaged is definitely your B movie. Now, some B movies are very good, but this one, I just couldn't get past all the implausibilities and the bad dialogue, the bad acting. So it feels more like a sci-fi movie. I can't watch those movies. I think they're so badly done. And somebody actually mentioned at the press day that sometimes it got to Sharknado level, where people are kind of laughing at the implausibilities of what you're watching on screen. So you know it's bad when you're laughing. But I was surprised to hear that most of the men enjoyed it, and they thought the CGI was fine. Maybe I just couldn't get past it. But there was no saving grace in this movie for me. I could not wait for it to end. And like I mentioned earlier, I could not wait for them to die. That's never good.